ALTBAYS Show is live, brought to you by ALTBAYS.nz. Some beatbox, come on. This is show 111 we've been doing for 8 months. It's been a big pleasure. If you wanna follow us, go on YouTube and subscribe, and you can join and you can be a member and put some dollars there to support the team. If you don't wanna do it, that's fine with me, but you would help. You would make more people come to the show, and we'll be very happy. Follow my flow. Let's go. Was not good? It's hard to rhyme in your second language, man.
That was really lame, but we'll own it. Great. I said great.
God
it's
damn
a second
it,
language
you're
thing.
So judgmental. We're live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. Thanks for being with us. It's been a pleasure. I love this guy next to me. I know.
Just said that.
It's good to give shit to your friends, isn't it?
It's good to be humble.
It's good to be humble.
How are you, Leo? This is your show. You feeling good?
I'm feeling great.
Do you have a show number for us?
111, this one.
Ooh, we're on Nelson.
On what?
Nelson, when you watch cricket, as many of our fine followers and live streamers watch, there's an old sort of story, what do you call it, superstition of Lord Nelson, that when the score was on 1-1-1 in cricket, you put one leg up in the air. So you always try and the superstition is if you don't put your legs up, your batter gets out and your team lose a wicket.
Thanks for teaching us something new.
Yeah.
Okay, so I get lost with you. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We put some clips there. If you have that short attention span just like me, you can watch our 1-minute clips. That's fine. And if you like the full length, you can go on all the audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. We're in all of them. We also have the ALTBAYS clips where we break down the conversations into small clips so you can pick your favorite ones and have a good time listening to ALTBAYS. I want to give a big thank you to our friends from... Oh, do you want me to talk about Blue Ginger now or later? I can do it now. Are you ready for it? Yeah. Are you ready, Hector? We have Hector as a pilot tonight. Thanks for coming back, my friend. It's good to see you. Our beautiful friends from Blue Ginger brought us some food tonight. It was simply amazing. So if you're coming to the Coromandel over summer, you want to check them out, blueginger.co.nz, and go on social media and have a look. They are a fusion restaurant. They serve amazing, they call it street food. You know, you go, you have a meal, it's quick. The service is amazing. Bags and Stu. Stu came to one of our shows, Chef Stuart Smith. Always good food. You like the food, eh, Fabian?
Absolutely loved it. I had the kapow chicken tonight. And I love how the recipe seems to have changed with their menu in the season. I guess we're getting more mushrooms now because the kapow chicken had mushrooms in it. Delicious and well cooked. I'm a big fan and I loved it. I probably ate too much of it, actually. I
love them too. And mushrooms are awesome. Fabian, do you remember having sexual classes at school, like sexual education classes at school?
Definitely. Through primary school, I went to a Catholic primary school, and it was a program called CFLE, Christian Family Life Education, which is a interesting acronym. So Christian Family Life was, you do it through the last couple of years of primary school. You learn about childbirth, learn about babies, learn a little bit about your own, personal development growth you're about to go through. Sort of years 7 and 8, learning about how their bodies will change, etc. It was an interesting time.
Was it?
I had a teacher called Mrs. Clark.
Yeah.
And she was brilliant. I wasn't in her classroom as my teacher, but we sort of rotated to a new teacher to talk about these topics, to a new expert teacher at that age level.
Do you remember any funny moments or stories?
I do. Not only did I come second place in knucklebones in her classroom, Sienna Penman.
Sometimes coming second is good.
No, I hate Sienna Penman. If you're out there listening now, I will not forgive you for beating me in that tournament. But I beat you, Cess. Yes, I did. You came third, bro. But for CFLE, I remember Michael Hewson, another fun guy. He, at that age, you're sort of daring each other to ask the teacher some interesting questions to try and throw them off. A little bit risque. Got a punch in the eye from Michael Hewson. Ask her, what's the difference between a period and an orgasm? And, to be honest, I didn't really know the full answer myself, but I tried using all my macho, that's a great idea, I will ask it, and I did. But the answer was probably a bit too much for my liking. Not only did we get to find out all the good available information about periods and how it works through girls' biology. But we got a first-hand account of what an orgasm is like.
Was it like a personal experience?
It was a personal experience of, and for my first orgasm, it was a beautiful experience with my husband of just ecstasy of being togetherness. It didn't go into much detail about the actions, but
thank God.
Certainly the expressed results were, in retrospect, alarming.
Christian school, did you say?
Catholic.
Shout out, Catholic schools. Thank you. That's good.
Well, it was something I learned. She answered honestly, so thank you, Mrs. Clark. I liked her.
Thanks, Mrs. Clark. Thanks for providing this moment.
Are you asking that question for any particular reason? Does it have something to do with our guest today?
There is any specific reason why I'm asking you that question, because tonight we have the pleasure to talk to SHAZ Iseli. Iseli?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
How are you, SHAZ?
I'm good, thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here.
Did you enjoy the blue ginger?
I loved it. It was beautiful. Really good. Always love blue ginger.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned before the show, is your kapow chicken one of your normal favourites?
Yeah.
And you had to sit here watching me eat it.
No, that's okay. It was good to try something different.
There you go.
Always got to embrace diversity.
Yes.
Ooh, I love
that. Already learning right off the bat.
Planting the seed.
So SHAZ, you're a nurse.
Yep.
And you have been working with youth health and sexual health and contraception.
Yeah.
You studied health science.
Yeah.
You have a postgraduate. Is that
That's
correct?
right. Yep.
What else? Tell me more.
Where do I start? First of all, I want to say I'm impressed with Fabian's memory. That he can remember all that from and names of students.
I think there was a bit of a trauma involved. That's why he remembers that story so much.
In retrospect, when I went through puberty myself, I went back in time going, oh my God, that's what she meant. And Michael Houston actually sold me a bike in the end of 2014 and it gave me a real good deal. So I'll always remember Michael. Nice kid.
Tell me, SHAZ.
Yeah, so I guess about when I got into youth health about 15 years ago, I worked for a organisation called Anamata CAFE in Taupo, Turangi. We covered that area and I started there as the clinical team leader, and I knew a bit about sexual health and contraception, but I ended up becoming their manager after a year, and then went on to do specialist sexual health and contraception work. We had the contracts for the district and we mostly saw under 25-year-olds. So we went into schools as well, but a lot of just community people and a really wide section of the community. So I started specialising in that area.
Do you remember your education at school, like how the approach was?
It was zilch.
Really?
No, I'll tell a lie, because I remember, I think it was in Form 2, our mum got to take us along to a film night, and they had the men's and women's anatomy on the film, on the TV, on the slideshow, on like a slideshow. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't
and it was
porno.
just very matter of fact, hugely matter of fact, and I just thought, that's revolting. And it wasn't discussed, and so you kind of just had to work it out. But, in those days you just looked in the dictionary, You looked things up in the dictionary. You looked
Aptly
up
named
sex
for
in the
this.
dictionary. Now kids Google sex, and you can imagine what they get.
Yes.
We can imagine if we think hard enough, we'll probably find something.
I would say that if they actually go on Google, it will probably not as bad as other websites that they can find more things, right? So Google might be actually not the worst. Do you come across kids who have like a full idea of what it is in their minds, and they come with explanations to you, like having these full-on conversations about what they've seen and what they
Sometimes it's amazing there's a huge gap. Some young people, I do year 9 health assessments, and some young people will know nothing at all really, and other people will know everything. So it's I kind of just work out what they know and kind of wait till they ask questions.
Can I just jump on? I really want to rewind back to the Taupo or Turangi sort of spread. So you've started there. After a year, you've gone into management and starting to learn a bit more about sexual health in greater detail. What sort of era are we talking at this stage? You
Well, I was
90s?
That was, when did I do that? I'm not very good. I'm not like you, Fabian. Haven't got a fabulous memory. I think that would have been 15 years ago. Yeah, so yeah, things changed a lot
So sort
during
of the
that time.
early 2000s type
especially
record.
the rainbow community, that really changed and things started to.
So can I ask about how that changed in your workplace? So did that recognition all of a sudden provide funding for your workplace to be more strongly connected to the community, or?
I was probably working a bit hard because I was the clinical team leader, so I was working clinics full time and I was the manager. So we got quite a few different contracts from the DHB, or we had existing contracts, and then we got further health promotion contracts. And the health promotion really changed to sort of incorporate diversity and a different type of education during that time. So, yeah, it was quite a changing time, I guess, and it always is in sexual health and contraception. And also long-term contraception came in a lot more, like
IUDs and
and the rods, the implants, the contraception.
Is that the
rods,
Jadel? Is that the word?
Jadel, last 5 years. So things changed a lot too, and I think, women have become since the 60s, it's changed a lot, but that was first in the 60s really that women had so much more freedom with contraception. So
Why contraception for men is not a thing?
I don't know, it's still
It would make easier.
still only condoms, I often talk about that.
I'd heard of research that there was a men's pill that was trialled at a relatively large scale. And I remember the person presenting this, in a sense, going, but they withdrew it because of slight cramps and discomfort for the men. And it was, it was phrased in an overly medicated way, but that was the gist. Like, there was occasional discomfort and cramps for the clients involved. And this was widespread, and it's like, well, yes, that's expected, surely.
I suppose it would, thinking about it, if people were in permanent relationships, it would be all right. But I always say to young people, you've got to look after yourself. You've got to, make sure you're okay, because you can't trust everybody else to look after you,
That's right. Is there an age for women, like, that is okay to start taking contraception?
It's actually, as long as you can prove that someone understands what they're asking for, you can give contraception to a young person, even under 16. If they come and ask for contraception, there was an amendment to the Act which allowed contraception to be given at younger ages, because there was a really high teenage birth rate in New Zealand, so they allowed nurses to provide contraception.
Was there
It was 1994 the Act was amended. So.
That's good.
Right, yes, absolutely.
It should have happened sooner, but yeah, things change and things get better over time.
Yeah.
That's quite cool. So what were the technologies seem to have changed? So were the Jadels and IUDs, was that still available early 2000s? It's been around a while. So the more long-term type of contraceptive.
Probably didn't, probably about 2010 maybe, 2010 it was more freely available and became
Was there a cost
free.
for some of them? So I think I remember someone, one of my family, I think I remember getting the gel, it was a couple $100 to get it
There
in,
was a
$400,
cost.
something like that.
I think I don't know exactly, but I think it's been funded for about 5 or 6 years now, and it's free.
Was that movement to get the long ones, just to get away from the pill thing, the regular everyday tablet type thing? That I remember it cleared up acne, and there was all sorts of things. Oh, I have it for my acne, and that was a big line I heard a lot growing up.
Yeah, I think it's just really easy. 5 years, fit and forget.
And you're done.
Don't worry about it too much. And it's got a few other bonuses, like it actually, this might be a bit much detail, but it changes the mucus in the cervix so that you have less risk of picking up sexually transmitted infections. It changes the balance of the... Yeah, so that's just an interesting thing I learnt recently.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
So
must
it's
have come out after time.
another preventative thing. Yeah, it does.
Oh, nice.
So that's did you say that it's 5 years that you
5 years. Yeah.
5 years.
There's also another one called Implanon, which lasts 3 years, but that's not funded. But it's only one rod and it's very easy to insert. So I kind of wish they'd fund that one. The 5-year one is a little bit tricky because it's 2 rods to insert under the skin. It's a minor surgery. Yeah.
Would you say that is which one is the most recommended ones, or like each case is a case?
I think they've both got pretty good studies and supporting evidence but the Implanon's just a lot easier to insert. So I think more people would do it. More GPs would do it a lot more. It wouldn't be such a so specialised to insert.
Right. Yeah, I'm still waiting for the contraception for men. I think this world would be way less chaotic if we could.
Do you think they'd be reliable at taking it?
If men would be reliable, when are men reliable, Shaz? I don't know. I'm
just asking. I wouldn't like to say.
If there was a men's contraceptive that, it could be a 5 years bang a butt, turn 16, put it on, you guys are great through uni, you're fine. Like, it gives you that freedom. I think it'd be a wonderful thing to have.
Would be good, eh?
Because then there's a lot of pressure in media and views of some people that, she should have known, or she. No, stuff it, there's 2 genders that are making the pregnancy rate so high and causing difficulties or challenges for people. Get the boys getting on board with it.
Yeah.
And again, if you're trying to get a boy to take a pill every day, I mean, you're already running into issues getting to eat breakfast every day, wear shoes or socks, to put on deodorant every day is a massive thing. Are they going to put this pill into their mouths? I don't think it's feasible.
Yeah.
From a non-educated perspective in that area.
It would be a great option for the ones who look for something like that, though, because a lot of men, I would think, would prefer that.
Than a little thing in you?
Little thing, yeah. I think so. I don't know. That's just my thing. I always thought about it. I'm like, why is the woman always the one having to keep up with those things? Like, can't we share this responsibility as well? Maybe try to.
That's why men get pressure to get vasectomies. I think women get fed up. Once they've had their babies, they're like, nah. Had enough now, get the vasectomy, get the chop.
Get the chop.
I have checked. Apparently it's not a chop. I always thought it was a chop. Like a little hacksaw. No. It's a little laser now, isn't it? They do a little laser like a little...
It's pretty easy. It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
I'm probably going to find out this summer. I'll report back.
Why are men so scared of it? Do they think that they're not going to be able to have sex, that they're not going to go hard or whatever? Like, do you think it's a fear?
Maybe. Yeah, that's probably why. Or there's that old thing of maybe their manhood, or I don't know, because it's such a simple procedure, and there's no problems with erections afterwards and things like that. But yeah,
I suppose for me, because I'm considering getting this sort of thing done in the near future, and I'm going, the biggest sad feeling is I love my kids; they're amazing. And I'll no longer have the potential to make more beautiful, amazing creatures, because once that's done, it's done. And yet you can make all the decisions in the world. You can know we're done, we're finished, we're not going to have any more kids. Let's just move on. And yet, to get the snip,
it's reversible, isn't it?
It is, but it's not always successful.
Yeah, that's a much bigger risk.
But you could save some sperm.
You can save sperm, Fabian. Don't you? What about donating sperm? You're a good-looking man.
It's a topic that's come up before. It's been discussed. I don't know how I'd feel about it ethically, whether you want to know the person or not know the person. Like those things. Would you give sperm to somebody who can't, biologically their relationship fails, and you know them because you love them and care for them? Or do you want it to have nothing to do with you, so you never look at the child and notice the nose or the ears or the eyeball that dingles off to the side? Dingles off to the side? An eyeball that dingles off to the side.
Great description.
Thank you.
Of yourself. Do you think we're still quite a conservative society? That's why so many of those subjects are like taboo and people avoid bringing up?
Yeah, I think we probably are. I think no one sort of sexual health, or it should be just like another component of health, and it doesn't get talked about a lot.
That's why we're all here, right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't be that. What
Yeah.
about because you can opt out of sexual education at school? Is that correct? Is it a thing
Yes.
that parents can?
Yeah.
How young is the approach? Like, so, like let's put it, two questions there. When do kids start having sexual educations at school, and do you think it's an appropriate age? Would you start it earlier?
I don't know that because I'm not in the
Do you know,
education
Fabian?
system.
Do you know?
I don't know the age, no.
If someone is watching us and has the answer.
I know
Does the
year
little-
7 and 8.
Does the little giraffe dude, is he still around?
Yes.
Gerald, is it Gerald?
Yes, he is still
Gerald?
around.
So what is that, year 7, 8, or is that year 5 and 6? Where does that little bus go around? Have you seen the giraffe? Little puppet that comes out and does sexual or body talks, health talks?
Yeah, I went in to see him last year. He came in a caravan to the school, but it was younger kids. No, I think 7 and 8 were in there as well. Yeah. But I know that they start year 7 and 8 talking about puberty and changes. But I know that the curriculum, they want to change it to more relationship focused.
Right.
And start younger, which is, I mean, because it's all really about relationships and self-esteem, and that's often where people run into problems, eh?
I suppose one of the things in terms of education with this, kids grow up with movies and books of people having kids, families, mum and dad do this, like stories about children, or mum's having a baby, I'm going to be a big sister soon. So I know that there are all kinds of books like that at school in the primary, where you're going to be a big sister soon, I'm going to have a baby brother. That in itself is teaching that the two adults are making a baby. So there's some sort of schematic in place. They don't know the mechanics of how A gets to B, but there's already a framework that's set in place. I just don't know when it gets explicit. When do they start saying, and now this is to do with your biology, someone else's biology, putting it together, bibbidi bobbidi boo.
I don't know, Fabian. I like you putting that way, but
I reckon it's really good when animals, when kids have animals, farm animals, all that sort of thing, then it gets to be kind of something to approach it, like what's happening there, and
I love it.
But
in the early days of Facebook, when I used to be a proper member of it, I remember one of the teacher forums, educational forums, talks about ridiculous thing teacher does with sexual health in class, and there were activity book about animals and having babies, and you'd go like genes of one mummy tiger having this, and then the back page of it, I always remember this going, draw if you were to have any type of daddy animal and a mummy animal, then they were going to have a baby, please draw the animal that you'd want to have. And I remember, like, the whole folks was like, what a ridiculous thing a teacher would do, having like a beaver having sex with a Tyrannosaurus Rex or something, and the kids would draw these Beaversaurus Rex.
Yeah, that's a worry.
It was just a list of all the possible hilarious creatures they'd make.
Shaz, for these 15 years that you've been doing this, we had this boom of social media, and we had Ross McCook, who works for, he's the founder of a trust called Heart for Youth, and he supports teenagers in high needs and vulnerable situations in life. And he was saying that there was a study that there was this peak in anxiety when social media became a big thing. Do you see from your experience, do you see the conversation? Did you see the conversation changing, or kids being a bit more anxious about how, or just more curious, because there are so many elements to it, the anxiety thing, but also how you get to relate to your own body, and you're being bombarded with a lot of fake bodies and all this stuff. So have you seen big changes in this time?
I think there's definitely a big increase in anxiety and just appearance, and I mean that's that whole constant being on social media and pictures and what you look like, and so many different platforms, and it's that constant pressure, I think. I think it's created a lot of anxiety for young people, and their brain never gets a rest. They're just constantly on it, and and I think it does affect their sexual health. I don't, what a relation. There's so much porn, out there, and of course, you Google, like we were talking about, you Google sex, and you get all the porn stuff come up. And, I've had the odd young person say to me, what can I do to help myself, because I don't know how to be with my girlfriend because I just have watched porn. And I think that's really sad, they don't know how to have a relationship. They don't know how to just hold their hand and just have they've got a strange idea of what normal relationships are. And I kind of try and explain to them, hey, it's acting, and they get paid to do that. It's not a normal relationship. So I think that's really influenced, Yeah, I mean, porn's always been around, but there was magazines and centerfolds and that. There wasn't just everything out there, eh?
But now we're bombarded with it, right? And
I suppose you say that we're bombarded. I suppose people are able to bombard themselves. Because you log into the app and then you're bombarded with it.
I don't know if they have the filter. I don't know if they have the understanding or the filter to work out what to, it's curiosity.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Because it's easy to access. So you might say, "Oh, it's an option." You're like, "Yeah," but when you're young, like you're curious, and then you go for it.
And addicted.
You just want to see it. So like that will keep triggering you. So I understand that it's an option, but like when you're young, you're more likely to get influenced by things maybe. And then I guess that also makes the relationship with substances and other things a bit more complicated as well, right? We were talking about vaping before, and like, let's not be hypocrites. Cigarettes have been around for years as well, and we all remember, being cool, smoking a cigarette, but like now it's just so easy, eh? Like you vape and it's not that big smoke, and like, well, the smoke is way bigger, but like the smell and the thing with like being, carrying cigarettes now is just like a USB stick.
Yeah. You can't even, people can vape and you don't even know or can't even see it, hey? Which.
I thought it should be like I've got a business idea for vaping.
Great.
Should I bring it up here?
Yes, please.
All right. It's the 19th of October, 2022. Fabian Roberts. A vape tooth. A fake tooth. Refill your cartridge. I've got a fake tooth. I could totally imagine little... Easy. Fake teeth vaping. That would be the next big thing.
Yeah.
It's going viral.
I mean, I imagine people would hopefully... I hope no one knocks out their own teeth just so they can get one.
Is it something that comes to... Thanks, Fabian.
Sorry.
I think we just...
It's an idea.
Well, you register, right? You said your name and the date, so
it's
yours.
totally legit legally, surely.
It's patented.
Do you get to read a little bit, and like is it something that is part of what you do to understand the damages and like what vaping is causing?
Yeah, I do. And I mean, it's actually causing problems with teeth.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's causing cavities, and they've got a lot of sweet stuff and crap in the vape.
But don't kids regrow teeth all the time?
Yeah, it's still they're gums, and it's and there's been an incident where a vape blew up in someone's mouth, and they lost part of their jaw. It had to be rebuilt, and lost teeth. Yeah,
I assume those are the minority.
Yeah, that was actually in the States. It was there's just so much more population. The photo got sent through. But and it is damaging to the lungs, we know that, but I mean, it's going to take time, before we know how much damage it's doing. But it's just I always try and say to the young people, just try, because a lot of them are smoking the really high nicotine vapes, just try and reduce the nicotine in the vape, because that's what they're really getting addicted to, is the nicotine, and then slowly get off it if they can. But it's so targeted to young people, the smells and the flavours, and I think the health department was way behind on the act with.
And half of them with it looks like stationery. You can get an eraser shaped one, a pen shaped one, sharpener.
Do you think, SHAZ, that there should be more regulation, because some people will say, well, but like you should be able to choose what you do and what you put in your body, and all that, the conversation that we know, like it's been out there for the last couple of years so much. Like, do you think even for substances like that we don't know much yet? Like, do you think we should have more strict?
I think there should be more regulation. I worry about whether the evidence is not out, but whether we're going to see more oral cancers and throat cancers and stuff like that. I mean, you just don't know. It's
just
like cigarette smoking. I mean, everyone smoked, It was just what you did, and then the damage was found out later on. But
yeah, my dad was cigars and brain cancer at 48. Yeah. But I sort of wonder the idea of, are we waiting for this current generation of teenagers to get to the age of 40 and have mass deaths due to these complications? Go, oh, now we have our evidence. Now we can act. You go, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Like, surely, let's have a trial period.
Yeah.
1 in every 200 kids can have a vape, and then in 30 years we'll see if they're alive. Statistically higher rates or lower rates.
Oh man, I don't know.
Hey, all those people that talk about you want a 30-year trial period for vaccines. Cool. Same thing for vapes then. Get on board with your kids. Get your kids off it. Make sure they have 30, 40 years of trial period of vaping before you let your kids vape or buy them for your kids.
But that's the thing. Like, it doesn't take much. You go to the cities, well, anywhere, but like especially in the cities, like all the adults are vaping. Like it's not just the children. I think that's the main reason why it's so popular among the children. Is the same thing with the cell phone. People say, oh, but like the children should not have access, and you're like, well, but the adults are not giving a great example. Like you just see it everywhere, like people finding an opportunity to go outside and just have like oh no, I'm just gonna go have a vape, and I'm like, ooh, how far is it gonna go? Like, you don't vape, Fabian? You don't even smoke.
I've never done a drug, never smoked a cigarette. There used to be a word called straight edge, but I never understood it, but it was always stupid and dumb to me. The concept you had to be a something to not be a something. Identity, never cared for it. Identity,
yeah.
You reminded me of a film called Fuck You, Goethe. It's a German film to do with a fellow who pretends to be a teacher and gets given the hardest class. All he's trying to do is steal his money back or something. And part of all of the dangerous cool kids want to do drugs, and they want to get into fights, and they want to be on phones. And eventually he just gets so pissed off with his kids he has to look after. He takes them into a drug house and says, oh, you want to take drugs? It's so cool. Come on. Takes them into the house it sells and just shows them all the people lying, sick and wounded on the floor in their highs. They go see drug dealers who are half stiff, seizured, missing teeth and all sorts of horrible stuff. Yeah, come on through as a classroom experience. And all the kids just going, I never want to do drugs ever again in my life. I remember that really struck me because the whole film was in German, but I knew what was going on.
Does that work, Shaz? Sometimes, like, just
it works for some people, the fear factor, but other people it doesn't. Like, I mean, I used to love it when they used to bring those crashed cars to school. I don't know if you guys remember that. They'd bring the smashed car, and the cop would come and talk about car accidents and show some really bad pictures. But I don't know if they don't do it anymore. But I mean, I always remembered that. But it's personality, whether and teenagers are at that age of risk taking, They're going to take a lot of risks, so they're going to, some are going to vape and then stop vaping, and that's fine. But those with addictive personalities are just going to vape to the max and do anything to the max.
You've just given them a slogan: vape to the max.
Vape to the max. That's the tooth one. Yeah. That's the slogan. We're building a new thing. What do you think would be a good tip, Shaz? Because I think a lot of the kids come to you. So I don't know if we mentioned that, but you've been working in the local school in Whitianga for 2 years now, right? As school nurse, which is pretty cool. So we can talk a little bit about that. So I guess a lot of the kids feel very comfortable and safe to open up with you, something that they probably would not do with their parents. And I guess parents might be watching or might be just thinking like, oh, what is the best way or a good tip like to have the conversation? Because as we said, don't do this, like this thing with like, no, it kind of doesn't work.
I mean, I try and say to them, what do you like about vaping and what do you not like about vaping? and try and get them to come up with their own ideas and kind of go with that discrepancy a bit to kind of work out why they don't want to do it. And often they will kind of work it out. I mean, usually when they come and see me, they're kind of wanting to give up anyhow. But it's really hard. It's super addictive. I just try and get them to reduce the nicotine in the vape. I have got nicotine replacement kind of gum that can help if people are really severely wanting to get off it and having high nicotine. But really the health department, like that's still kind of off licence, nicotine replacement gum. It's still only meant to be used for cigarettes really, patches, gum, all those kind of things. So really the health department's still trying to come up with what to do with all this vaping addiction. So, but I think just try and encourage them to think of what they don't like about it and come up with something themselves. Because if you say to them, look, it's really bad for you, don't smoke, don't vape, it's just, they've got to come up with it themselves.
As I'm such a clean slate, I'm such a pure little angel over here, I'm really quite curious as to what are people doing whilst they vape? Is it they're vaping, are they scrolling on a phone vaping? Are they vaping for just like a fresh bit of air and then they go back to doing something? Or are they sitting there vaping as the activity? As in, do they just need more activities to do? Do these kids need to go to the beach, kick a ball, go surfing, ride a bike?
Absolutely.
I just wonder, and
that's where you can often they'll say, oh, it affects my sport. I'm not doing so well in sport. And that's often when you can kind of find that. But yeah, a lot of them haven't got that much to do or... Because definitely sports is a resiliency factor big time. If you're in a team or some sort of sports or dance or water surf, life-saving, whatever it might be, yeah.
Okay. Can I throw something at you, Leo? So did you have cigarettes back in the day with socialising out at night in Brazil?
Nicotine was not a thing for me, but most of my friends would have a cigarette. I think because my mom smoked a lot before her pregnancy, and then I remember growing up with her hating cigarettes, like the smell, and then people who smoke. So I think that kind of stuck with me of like, ooh, cigarettes, not good. So I never liked cigarettes, like nicotine was never a thing. But then alcohol, yes. Alcohol a bit later, and I started drinking quite late compared to most of my friends, but it was present for sure.
Because the idea of lighting a fire on your face always seemed cool. Is vaping now the equivalent of like putting the kettle on?
I think you got it right. Like, it looks cool.
Yeah,
it's the group, like everyone is doing it, and then it just looks. And the thing with the smoke, because like what I see, like some people think that I'm crazy, right? And I think they're right.
Often
I go to the pub to hang, to see people, because like I love social experiences.
Yeah,
I haven't been drinking for pretty much 4 years. I don't smoke. So I go to the pub, there's a karaoke night or a band playing, and I sit there, drink water. Like, that's why I think I dance so much, to see if I support the pub somehow, because I'm actually not going to give $1. I don't drink. But then I observe a lot. And then I see this thing with like people simply like they just don't vape. Some people do. Some people vape and they're doing the thing. But like some people like to do the classic, like there's a thing with putting the smoke out and making this big cloud. And I'm like, oh, you like the look of it, like it's the classic cigarettes, like what Hollywood made, right? The actors and all the sports people, they would look amazing having the cigarette, like, so when I see that, I'm like, oh, that's just the new cigarette, like it's just people looking cool, making like this huge cloud, so I think that's what it is. And of course, we know how addictive it is because it gives you that hit, the nicotine, so obviously you're going to get a good hit out of it. The brain loves that, so...
Fascinating.
What about caffeine? Oh, sorry, Shaz, you were going somewhere.
I was just thinking about what you're saying and how some of the young people are sort of vaping really secretly behind things and in their jersey or whatever. That's obviously possibly they're addicted. They're not the ones wanting to look cool,
Yeah.
Because, maybe they're the ones
it's
that
cool
really
for
can't
sure,
get away with it.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking, I started nursing in 1987, which is a long time ago. and a lot of us smoked, nursing students, and in the middle of Auckland Hospital, in the middle of the operating theatres, there was a smoking room. And you went in there, and all the surgeons and all the nurses would be sitting in there smoking, and it was, not all of them, but whoever smoked, and it was yellow. The room was yellow. And I mean, how much have we changed, eh?
Airports used to have those little booths.
Yeah.
And they were yellow. The glass was yellow.
Yeah.
Not painted, stained.
So there's been a lot. It's been a long process, but who would have thought that we were going to be smoke-free in so many areas, you know?
Well, and now the industry found a way to dodge that, right? That's
Sadly,
why the vape
yes.
is so, there's no way to...
And it sneaked in before.
So what's next? Holographic pretend smoking? You smoke through your glasses? Let's project images of smoke.
We'll see.
Be a light show. You get lasers going.
And I wonder about caffeine, Cass. Sorry. Because that's something that I see quite often and not many people talk about, because I think for all of us, it's just such a simple thing, you know, like having caffeine in the morning. And it fascinates me because, like, who came up with that? You know, like, who started like, oh yeah, you gotta have a coffee in the morning. I'm like, why? But anyway, and then you see kids. You see young people with like takeaway cups, and like, let's not even talk about the energy drinks, right? Those huge cans that probably are a few shots of coffee there. So I was thinking, when you were talking about the regulations for vaping, what came to me was, wow, what about caffeine? Because is it would you call it a drug? Like, is
It's
it
definitely a stimulant, isn't it? It's Interesting. I'm just reading a book, and you're going to ask me the author, and I can't remember.
So who's the author of the book?
Yeah, I knew. It's just a little one from the library, and it's about the history of coffee, and it also talks about in the 1500s, you know, and back in England and Europe, everything beer, because they used it to kill all the bugs. And everyone drank beer for breakfast, lunch, dinner, you know. And then finally coffee came in, and they had another drug, and also the betel nut and all those kind of, it talks about a lot of stimulants. But yeah, coffee is, I mean, they talk about it in this book as very much being a drug, and it kind of replaced alcohol for a lot of people.
It does.
But yeah.
How does it affect our brains? What's the thing with caffeine that gets us there?
I think it just is a bit of a stimulant, eh?
Would that be the opposite then of, so is it that, so alcohol, too much alcohol can lead to you being underactive, lack of focus, and there's accidents, and that's operating machinery, it's driving vehicles, it's handling young children safely and not dropping them, or even just walking in a straight line without banging or falling on something. Whereas the onset effects of caffeine may end up being hypervigilancy, or maybe possibly driving too quickly, but it's less dangerous, the effects of it. Like if you had 2 cups of coffee versus 2 drinks of vodka in the morning, one's going to have a significant physical effect on you versus I'm perky and I'm addicted, I want my perkiness. But if you're having 12 coffees, clearly there's a difference. I have at least 1 coffee a day. I don't know if I'm addicted, I just really like the cultural aspect of it.
Coffee.
And don't you dare take it away from me.
Yeah, I don't want to think of it as being a drug. I think you've got to have heaps of it, like 20 cups a day.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
If it's going to cause a problem.
It's a body scrub.
Yes. Another thing that I was thinking this afternoon when I was kind of like preparing for tonight, it's been such it's always in the news, like, oh, nurses in New Zealand, you know, like asking for better conditions, you know, like, you know, why is it mainly for like the nurses? Like, why we don't hear doctors complaining about that, and why are we so under staffed? What do you have a take on that? Like,
sit back.
I think a lot of nurses are going to Australia. Australia's really good money, and probably better conditions. The trouble is, I think that a lot of the nurses are employed by the DHB, so they paid, you know, so much, and that's what you get paid. So if you get a really good nurse that you want to keep and you want to pay them some more money, that you can't. It's just part of the contract.
what is the DHB?
District Health Board. So the nurses in the hospitals are under a collective contract. So they're kind of fixed.
So like
what they
Waikato
get.
has a DHB still, or is it gone? Is
It's still at the
and
moment.
then there's like counties, Manukau had one, North Auckland had a DHB.
Tricky, because like in a sense, in a protective way, it actually makes sense to have a group, to have like a, you know, like
Yeah.
people, but it's undervaluated by the way that you
And I think from my personal take, predominantly it's a female profession, and I think they are always have been paid a bit less, you know, unfortunately. It's just how it's gone. I mean, I think it's getting better, but it takes
I do know
time.
a male nurse.
Yeah, I know. I've
Shout
got a
out,
couple
Sam.
of...
There you go.
I know a male nurse called Sam too. Might be the same one. We won't say.
Sam Hughes.
About it. Oh, different Sam.
He's pretty muscular.
Oh,
well,
so you
he's a
got
boss. He's about, 2 feet shorter than me, but he's strong, muscular, works out. He's a nurse. He and his wife are nurses. Lovely people. Loves his job. What's wrong with being a nurse? Leo?
Is it
And I think I think it's been really hard through COVID too. I mean, working in PPE for most of the nurses is horrible, you know, and just haven't been able to have those nurses like having relationships with people, and working in PPE, it's really hard to develop those relationships. I think the rewards of the job have kind of gone a bit during this period. Yeah, it's just been a hard time, and I think, you know, worked really hard, long hours in the hospitals, you know, and been short staffed because there's constantly been people off with COVID, and so I think it's been a really hard time for the health sector in general. And I was talking to a friend who's a surgeon up at Middlemore, and they said it's really hard to get staff, you know, enough nurses on for the day, and you know, it's just a general shortage. Yeah.
Is it a costly course, like to go through, like to become?
Well, it is. It's a university degree, so you've got to pay, you know, usual. I trained through the hospital. I was the last class to go through the hospitals, and we got paid a basic wage. So it wasn't a lot, but it was enough to run a car and a flat, and I really think they should go back to some sort of hospital training. We had to work full shifts, and you worked quite hard for 3 years, but you also staffed the hospitals as well. And you went in for block courses, and then so I think that it would be really good to go to that kind of training again, or a shared training between the hospitals and the polytechs.
It's interesting you say that, it's the degree, so you start at the negative, and then you start at the lowest possible step, and you need 8 years or so of working before you might even get to that top step. So you start at a deficit, and then have to work 8 years to live a comfortable wage. And all the nurses that are currently working, have worked a long time, their pay still sucks. So they have to go start negative with a degree, work for 8 years to try and get to a pay that's not going to be adequate by the time they get there. It's not a very appealing profession.
I was really lucky to go through the hospital system, and I'd been travelling overseas and doing lots of other things, and I don't think I would have gone nursing if I hadn't been able to do that, because, you had to run a flat and a car, and I didn't have someone to put me through uni or get a loan or that sort of thing.
Which hospital did you train through?
Trained at Green Lane. Yeah.
Where's Green Lane Hospital?
It's
Auckland's Green Lane.
Epsom,
Sorry.
round that area, yeah. It was a full operating hospital. They had a nurses' home. I came back from overseas and went in the nurses' home and met a whole lot of buddies, and then found buddies to go flashing, and it was a really good training. I really enjoyed it, yeah. And I loved nursing right from the start, yeah. I'm trying to encourage a few young people I see to go nursing, because people just aren't going for the caring professions anymore. Yeah.
But I think that's the reason why, like, you get bombarded with this news, not getting enough, working long hours, like not having the recognition that they deserve. And in a way, I also see a big problem with like how universities hold that power of like holding the knowledge. It costs, like it's a burden, that you're getting into something that is going to be hard. Like that's what we were saying with like the fear thing, like it. Well, that's just my thing. Like for me, education should be like free. It should be for everyone. Like you should incentivize people to go and say, oh yeah, please become a carer. Like go for this. Like we'll help you, we'll support you. But like in a way, I see like this big universities like limiting numbers and complaining about the conditions, and you're like, well, but you holding the knowledge and you're making a lot of money out of that. So I always see it as like, at the end of the day, eats its own tail, because then the people don't have people to look after them. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, and people can't, and I think people feel like they've got to be really academic, and you don't. You know, to be a nurse, you got to be smart, but you know,
be switched on, give the right drug, the right amount.
Yeah, but most of all, you got to like people and have good relationship skills, and the rest you can. I was only real average at school. I wasn't anything flash at all, but I managed to pass enough to get in to nursing, and then I kind of did a lot of post-grad stuff from there, because all of a sudden I found could do something because I really liked it, you know. But,
it's interesting to talk about some of the issues with nursing, because there are multiple unions, right? And then there's practice nurses. They're paid in a contract with the independent practice. They're not paid like hospital midwives, as in they can negotiate their rates and hours and whatnot. So I think in terms of nursing, because my mum's a nurse, my sister's a nurse, and I think that because it's so disparate, the different factions of types of nurses, and then the different types of nursing unions that would represent them. You know, if there's going to be 2 or 3 unions, which one's the best union? Oh, this is the best union. So there's already in-clan fighting, and who's going to get you? Oh, these unions do nothing for us, and they accept terrible terms and conditions. And it seems like it's chaos in terms of a nursing-led to help nurses perspective. Is that fair?
It has been tricky lately. I think the union situation's been really tricky lately.
Am I right? There are multiple unions?
There's really only one for the general nurses, but midwives would have their own one. There's quite a few. You know, there's only one main nursing union in the country.
Oh,
but you kind of have to be a member for indemnity insurance. So,
and do they do a good job, in your opinion?
Generally, but they've had some leadership difficulties lately, I think. Yeah.
That doesn't help. So leave the message there, SHAZ, for people to engage more and to do more, you know, to go for those professions. They're beautiful professions. We understand the struggle, but like you're saying, like trying to talk to young people to put them on the track.
And I mean, it's great for travelling, you know, and most people drift back to New Zealand eventually. You know, nurses do go away, but New Zealand's so beautiful, they usually come back. But we just have to lift the profession up a bit, I think. So
valued.
So most of your travelling was because of your profession?
No, I travelled quite a lot before.
Why? Tell us about that. When did you travel, and what was the purpose?
My dad came out from Switzerland in his late 20s and married mum. She was Irish, and so he kind of gave us the travel bug. There was 5 of us kids, and he built a caravan, and we travelled all around the country any chance he got. He was a builder, and he was always travelling, talking about travelling. So I just saved up real hard, left school, saved up, worked wherever I could, and went travelling when I was 21 for a couple of years. Just hitched around the world, travelled all over the world, worked a little bit here and there, and worked in bars and restaurants and cleaned toilets and did anything I could to kind of travel.
Are there any great places during those days that have stuck with you, good memories of jobs working around the world?
Yeah, I worked up in the mountains in Switzerland in a Cesargrashuna in a hotel up in Cloisters. That was quite fun. Learnt to ski up there with all the Spanish dudes and had lots of crashes on the mountain.
Cool. Yes.
All the kids think that you should know how to ski, And I worked in London for a while and did a lot of travelling around, and came back through Asia and went in Malaysia. A friend's father was in hospital with hepatitis. It was a small Malaysian hospital. Went in there and thought, this looks like an interesting job. I think I might apply for nursing when I get back. So it's kind of inspired on my travels.
Was there opportunities like that you got to connect more with like holistic health? Because some countries they deal much better with that partnership. That's how I see it. I love the traditional medicine, but also the holistic one. Countries that know how to balance that.
Probably through Asia, travelling back through Asia a bit more, I noticed that. But I had only started thinking about health on my way home, kind of thing.
You talked about the idea of confidentiality, and you can't have people knowing about patients. But in terms of work experience, you were inspired through that experience of going in and seeing someone in an environment where you're going, I think I could do this. It would be quite a nice thing to do. Can young people get experiences? Like, can you send a year 12 kid or a year 11 kid, can they go out and work in a practice or travel? Are those options allowed?
Yeah, that's tricky, eh? When I used to work at for a couple of GPs here before I went to Taupo, Turangi, and we used to get, I think we had a girl, she would have been through Gateway, she came and she's actually ended up going nursing. She's registered nurse now, and
wicked.
She came through Gateway and spent some time with us. Yeah. So I guess it depends on the owners of the practice who's and she's working as a community nurse now with kids.
That's really interesting, because Gateway,
she's really cool.
Gateway always sounds like trades to me, generally, or working, or learning through your employment. But being a nurse through Gateway or trying it out, that sounds fascinating. It's
kind of got to be a bit of an out there practice to let young people do that, eh? Like they were quite liberal, I think, as far as that went. Yeah,
but
of course they've got to sign confidentiality and all that, and that's often quite hard. You've got to have quite a mature young person to understand all that, eh? And
no phones.
Yeah. No photos. I have a sign up in my clinic: no photos.
So now I think I'm gonna get I'll take a turn there and back to something that we started talking about, but then I didn't go there. We were talking before the show about gender equality and young people navigating through changes in their bodies, and it's such a hot topic now, like everybody talking about like, like you gotta accept the kids the way that they are. And then it feels to me, Shaz, that the problem is much more for the adults than actually the teenagers. They're just going through their changes and trying to navigate, and then you get all these things. Oh no, you cannot say that, you cannot be this, you cannot be that. And when I talk to teenagers at school, they're so okay with it. They're so like, well, that's what it is. They want to be called like that. That's what. And I'm like, oh cool, thanks, there's hope. Like, so how is it for you? Because like it doesn't seem to be like a new thing. I think each generation goes through their own changes, and how they, but how is it for you? Like,
well, isn't it cool because we can learn?
Thank you, mate. Thank you so much.
Isn't it cool because we can learn a lot from young people, eh? And they just think, why do we complicate it so much? I think they just accept people for what they are, and often young people go through stages, and that might be really what they are, but they might next year decide, oh no, I'm not that way. I think it's quite fluid, eh? And you've just got to go with it and keep a dialogue up, and not parents get really stressed about any sort of changes, eh? Whereas it's
how do we
through it?
How do we deal with that though? Like what's again, like,
the
just
parents
asking, just like asking. I don't know if tip's the best word, but like when those subjects are arising, because again, we have so much access to people talking about, I feel like I'm a female on the body of a male or whatever, like, and I see the parents worrying too much about that. So is it a right way to approach, to have a conversation? Is it always time to bring a professional to the table? Like what would you say from your experience?
I think if it's ongoing, if they're feeling like it for quite a period of time, then it's worth going to see a health professional. Even a counsellor, just to kind of work through how they're feeling, but someone that's youth specific, because some counsellors can sometimes not be quite right for the young person. It's got to be someone they can talk to. And I think it's worth going to see a health professional if it's ongoing, because there are things that we can do. Some people are really sure about it, about gender. They say, no, I've felt like a boy in a girl's body all my whole life, and some people are really sure, and other people change a lot. So
Is there an age that needs to be set before you can take it seriously, or action? Because I've heard all sorts of stories through people, word of mouth. I could be being lied to, like 8-year-old girls getting full hormonal treatments, or 7-year-old girls getting stuff happening overseas, not in New Zealand, but happening overseas. And that to me seems, that's just young.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the States. Here they can go on hormone blockers which are reversible, but I guess it's good to take those reasonably early, and sexual health at Waikato is really good for advice on that as well. So, you know, most people tend to refer to sexual health there's a really good person at Waikato that will see young people. But yeah, it's really hard. And I mean, of course young people need the support of their parents, you know, and they've got to, and they can't sort of do anything without them at that age anyhow, which makes it really hard. So much easier if young people come in with their parents, or their parents are kind of trying to help them navigate through that.
See, I've got a rather contentious perspective here. To me, someone's gender is one of the most meaningless things ever in terms of who a human is. You're an artist, you're a person who likes this sport, you're a person who's good to hang out with and do a crossword.
Yeah.
Like, if your child comes and goes, I want to be this, they're going, are we still going to play Scrabble on Saturday? Yeah, cool. Like, but it means so little to me.
See, that's kind of quite a good attitude to have, really, because it's not, it's...
It just takes like, oh, okay, sure, are you still my child?
I love you for you. I love you for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what,
Like, I'm not going to complain if you have big feet.
You know what I have a bit of an issue with?
Oh, go on.
Someone might not like this, but you know that when you have a baby, they have those gender reveal parties, and you have a cake and you cut it and it's like pink inside or blue inside or whatever, and I think, what is that about? That's just wrong on so many levels, eh?
Yeah. It's pretty funny. I love it that you can sue your parents now. I've seen those skits written articles of parents suing their parents, trying to label them from when they were in the womb.
There was a minister in Brazil that she got infamous, I would say, because she would sing a song on TV. She was like, blue is for boy, pink is for girl. And we're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And you're like, go back to like the prehistory, like to, I don't know, ancient times or whatever. So, and that's why I like so much to bring the subject to the show, because we hear all the time, oh, you gotta be tough, you gotta do this, and women have to be the one looking after the kids and serving, and you're like, this is so old school. Like we've done this. Like there's a lot of frustration, a lot of trauma, that comes from those attitudes. Like, can't we just learn from that? But like, there's still that thing of like, no, some things we shouldn't change. That's why men are so weak and vulnerable nowadays. And I'm like, well, it feels like this is happening because you guys keep putting pressure.
Yeah, and it's young people. And it's young people that are when they have babies, having the gender reveal parties. That's what I even don't get even more.
See, I've had 2 babies, and for both of them, we didn't find out because we were like, we liked imagining both. And so we had 2 sets of dreams of what our kids would be. And it was great. And then we got to find out at the end. And we decided, Martin with you, it's like, we really like imagining both. We had 2 sets of names. We had 2 sets of what we'd do. And like, it was fun. And I feel like when people have told us, like, I lost half my imagination. I lost half the excitement. No, it's great. Wonderful. You're going to have a child. But the reveal party seems like a deflating balloon party to me. I say, okay, irony. That's just me. I never want to find out because it's just so exciting. What do you get? Oh, that's amazing! Wow, you get to know this moment in real time with the baby. What a spark of joy that was.
Shaz, and what do you think about? Because then some people, it feels like they feel more comfortable when they find a label or something that define them. Like I see both sides of the story working. Like some people say, nah, get rid of the labels, like just whatever. But then at the same time, like it seems like that there's always a new gender, that there's always a new word to be identified as, like, and is it something that it has to be do you think it has to be like that? Some people like, some people don't like, and it's better that we have ways of.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the individual. I can't keep up with it. I tend to just often call them, are you part of the rainbow group? Because I just can't keep up with all the different gender names. Or how do you identify? And some people say, well, I don't identify as any particular gender. I'm, you know, non-binary or whatever. So, but I find it hard to keep up with. Yeah. I think if you're not in the actual, that world of, you know, it's hard to keep up with all the different terms.
How do you identify yourself, Fabian?
Well, I love cricket. I'm a piano player. Most importantly, I suppose I'm a dad and I'm married. I love that. The least interesting part about me is my genitalia. I mean, I'm not, I mean, surely that's got to be the least interesting part of most humans on Earth. Like, when we go to the cafe, I'm not wondering, I wonder if they've got a big... I don't give a flying toss. I have no care in the world for it. I'll either like a conversation or I won't. Sorry, it's just...
I love it.
It's so uninteresting to me.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, that's the first one of the show. Jeez.
Yeah. I
Sorry.
I feel the same. Like I love talking to the young people and just getting that vibe of like.
Yeah. They don't make
man,
it complicated.
They don't make it complicated at all. At all.
Yeah.
There's an interesting point on that. Have you ever seen the videos of David Bowie at high school, part of a group that, I can't remember the name of the group, but it was a whole idea of boys wanting to have their hair long. And it went to the news. It was a huge movement at the time. All he wanted to do was have long hair. And a big group of people, they're all interviewed on a big chat show. And they're simply saying, what do you mean you're not allowed to have it? It's like, they won't allow us into our classes if we don't cut our hair off. Sure, it's not so. Just cut your hair and be all macho. I was like, why would you assume we're not macho based on our hair? And you're thinking, all the adults with their issues, something you talked about before, the adults having an image. How many adults here like David Bowie that are watching? There might be a couple. Watch him talking about the absurd things that they might be feeling now about their kids and gender, or whether they like soccer versus rugby or volleyball, whatever it is. Because it's just, again, who cares? It's your kid. But you look back at David Bowie and you're like, wow, that was an international or a national movement just for boys to be allowed to have long hair and not be ridiculed, kicked out of class, not be able to get jobs because the employers are like, no, we can't have you here because you got long hair and you look like a girl. That was a thing.
Yeah, big thing.
That was a thing in the life of a musical icon or an acting icon if you're a fan of his films.
There's a new movie about him. I forgot the name, but it was showing here in town. It's amazing. It shows all the trajectory of his life and his experiences. So yeah.
Big fan of The Labyrinth. Shout out.
Yes, good film. That's right.
It's a Jim Henson.
Do you get to support parents as well, SHAZ? Because sometimes it comes from home.
A little bit. Yep. Sometimes I do get a parent coming in as well. Yep.
So,
which is cool. Which is really cool. Often they'll ask if they can come in too. Yeah.
Is that a balance though with the? So I can't ask any specifics, but the idea of you're part of a team of health and support for children, right? There are counsellors, there are other experts that come in. So how's it working with the network to do with home? Because I'm assuming the counsellors may have bigger links with home or not. I don't know much about it. How's it working in the team at the school with those kids and home?
We tend to do it on an individual basis. I tend to just contact parents if there's something health-wise, and I always ask the young person, is it okay if I ring mum? And often it's there, because young people often come and see me just because they're feeling run down and might do some bloods and pick up low irons and things like that, so then I tend to kind of try and, for general health, I tend to try and involve parents a little bit. Some kids are really independent, and actually we're trying to teach them health-seeking behaviours, so that if they're not well, they know that they can go. And actually, I have a doctor once a fortnight that comes in for an hour or so, and she said, it's really nice seeing the young people on their own, because she says sometimes, they've just about always got a parent, and they actually come up with a lot of different stuff, and it's nice seeing them kind of be independent a little bit and learning to sort of seek help and stuff. Yeah.
Did you have, so how old were you when your father passed away, Fabian?
10. Yep. It was 20 years this August. We went and planted a tree out at Lonely Bay. So thank you, the Thames Coromandel Council. They helped organise for my sister to plant a big pūtakawa out there. So shout out to that team. Thank you so much.
Was mum...
It's one of the Costellos, actually. Thank you, the Costello
nice.
family.
Ah, Cool.
Was mom proactive with like being with you and going through the time at school and then the ups and downs of being a teenager?
I suppose when Dad passed away, my two older siblings, one was at university, one was just going to university. And I think it was a really torrid time for the next two down. I'm the youngest of six, so the top two away, then three more before me. And the others hit the teenage difficulties much worse than me. You know, drinking problems, drug problems, social group, just issues cropping up that they resolved and got through a lot better when they matured and got through to start planning what they wanted to do. I was quite young, so I was before, as that happened and all my siblings went through that, I was at a stage of seeing that as a 10, 11-year-old and seeing it as scary. So I was always quite mature. I never went into that scary world because I'd seen some of the horrors. I'd seen terrifying things happen to people on drugs or people that are overdosing and going to hospital. So I'd always had that view of, shit, this is something I don't want to be involved in. And I was also there to help Mum. So I never really fell into that world because I was trying to help look after Mum. So
and do you think
story.
it was your age group too? You're a bit younger maybe?
I think
You
just a
went
bit
through
younger.
Puberty and
then going through puberty, I'd already gone through years of caring, well, not caring for Mum like a carer, but being more conscientious as a person growing up, knowing that there's a widowed mum here who I saw struggle for so many years with kids that were going through their big struggles over so many years. And then I got into that world going, well, I don't want to be a dick to Mum and I don't want to go down that avenue. So I was pretty easy. Puberty was easy. Relationships were good until it was not, but nothing ever went wrong.
Normal.
There you go. Just a standard story, casual death, watching horrific stuff as a child and coming out on top. Classic.
No drugs involved.
good resiliency factors.
Yeah. I've never really...
A good mum.
Yeah, pretty cool mum. I loved her growing up. She's a good muso too. That was nice. A big influence is music in the family. We also had something to do, and that was something we talked about earlier. What are they doing while they're not vaping? I was in 42 extracurricular groups in year 12 at high school. Volleyball, soccer, touch, singing, guitar, barbershop quartet, barbershop chorus. I was busy. Then I was doing community theatre stuff and drama. I was so busy. There's no time to be bored. Or I'll be at home with my mates on a sleepover having a Xbox tournament for a game. But there was no phones that were cost effective. So yeah, I was just that normal, super busy, hyperactive, relatively academically capable kid. Just another classic story.
Overweight?
Very. Took me a wee while.
Me too.
You were overweighter than me.
Yes. Yeah. In Brazil, like in a lot of the thing with nutrition and those informations that you think they're basic, they're not. So my parents were always on a mission, working a lot, making sure that the things were all right financially, but then a lot of the other things would fall through the cracks, so those things with like looking after yourself and being a healthy kid, like that was not actually a big priority there for us. And the thing with sexuality, there's a funny one, because in Brazil you get bombarded with those things, like it's on TV, and even if you think about like Carnival and all those things, it's people are half naked dancing, and it's so visual. So I think we all grow up with that thing like very present in our life. And then nowadays I see it as how those things can affect relationships and like how you see a woman and how women perceive men of being like the dominator or whatever, but nowadays, like we were talking about porn before, now it's everywhere. It's all around the world because it's so easy to access, and so much porn is about that. It's about like men being, like the dominator, being like the rough. And then I'm like, wow, like we don't realize how much damage we're causing with those things that a lot of adults will say, oh, but it's good, like people can do whatever they want to do. Like, yeah, it's not like that, like you're really affecting someone's upbringing.
You're saying people can do whatever they want to do. That shouldn't be the case for little kids. And just on that, a few times I wanted to talk about it on the show. If you're a parent watching, there are parental controls on every bloody device you have. It's required. Your TV, your YouTube. You can block out this channel completely if you choose to. You have all the control in the world on your child's phone. You can block, is it R-rated, is that the word they use, or X-rated material from someone's phone. You know, parent more.
I think the hard
Diligently,
thing for
that's the
parents is they, you know, especially with teenagers, young people, parents will take the phone or block the phone, and the young person will just get another one. So I think it's kind of having a conversation and teaching them how to navigate what's good to look at and how to look at things with, you know, which is really hard, super hard, because it takes a lot of time to teach young people how to navigate the whole everything out there, you know.
Keep them busy. Cook a meal.
And I guess you have to have those tools as well, right? You have to be prepared to have those conversations, right?
Yeah. NetSafe is really good. Got some good tools in that to look up for parents, NetSafe, and how to have those conversations when it's got to start quite young. Yeah. Do parents, it's something I don't know well, maybe it comes up in your area, but do kids' friends, so generally students have their social friend groups, the ones that they text or Insta pop each other with, doing their things. Are those kids' parents friends? And so that the idea of, that such and such has a phone, or such and such just messaging me, well, then as a parent, I'm just going to call that, hey, can you get your kid to stop messaging my kid? Can you guys just come over and get off your phones? Invite the parents to be friends with each other so they can see, you can model what socializing looks like, being with people, sharing food, talking in person, doing activities. Is that a movement we need to go for? Parents, meet your kids' friends. Meet your kids' friends' parents. There should be a parent, not parent-teacher interview. There should be parents interview.
Parents.
Well, I remember the guy on NetSafe saying, if your kids are on a social media site, be on it as well. You know, be one of their friends. Be on it as well. So you know what they're up to if they, you know, but I mean, where do you stop with that, eh? You know, I think, just talking to people and just, back to basic communication would be fantastic. Yeah.
There you go. SHAZ is hopeful, man.
Well, I'm optimistic as well, because like my daughter, we've got a pretty good social group with all the parents. Like we know so many of the parents. We see them regularly. We chat and have good chats. We've talked about things like, we're not all going to get phones or whatever at this stage. Let's try and hold off and just hang out together and have way more social interaction. I don't know. At some point, it's going to be, you really, really want a phone? Okay, you can have a phone, or we can go to Australia for a weekend and go shopping in a mall and go to Disney World and go out and watch a concert or a thing. What would you rather do? By the way, we can also bring one of your friends, because we'll be on board with your friends' parents, and let's go for a girls' weekend trip over to Australia. I hang out with the sun, and we'll go out and do something else together. As a bargain, is it a way of negotiating your way to things? Financial burden, obviously. But, I don't know. Proactive?
Be friends with them, yeah.
Be friends with the parents.
Well, and hopefully if you're all friends, then the young people come and talk to you about all that sort of stuff, that it's kind of then an open conversation and it gets talked about a lot. And
then all the parents of all the friends are, no devices after 8, okay, after 9, whatever, I don't care the time, whatever it is, we all agree to that, they shouldn't be on it. Nah, thing's not on, they're not on it, they're not on it, they're on it. Hey, Billy, get the frick off, get your kid, they're on it now, yeah, they're on it, they're on Snapchat, they just posted this.
I can see. I'm on it too.
I've got a friend who's a sports coach, not around here, but she took a hockey team away, boys hockey team, and she said, right, we're going, I want your phones at 10 o'clock at night, and at dinner time she took all their phones. She said they hated it for the first day. She took all their phones at dinner. They had to sit and have dinner and all talk, gave them back to them after dinner, 10 o'clock at night, back again. And she said they loved it. After 2 days of sort of moaning a bit, they loved it. And they just talked, and they said that was actually the best thing she did, you know. So, yeah.
Let that be a model.
There you go. Let's try that next time here at ALTBAYS. SHAZ, thanks so much for coming and chatting with us. So
You're welcome.
Beautiful things that we can get there and feel inspired by.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the blue ginger. That was absolutely, what a great start to the evening.
Nice. Yes. Thanks, Taylor. we'll have more of these conversations for sure. I'm sure we all get some ideas. So thanks for sharing all your knowledge and your passion.
Thanks for having me. Nice to catch up with you guys. Yeah.
Thank you. And for you guys watching us at home, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We're live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. We're back on Friday. Peace. Bye.